Hi, my name is Lucienne Weinberger. I live in an artist's building in Lower Manhattan named Westbeth. I have lived there now for 53 years, and it's a building that only houses a variety of different disciplines of people in the arts. My own art is largely a visual art, and I use materials that include painting, collage, sculpture, drawing. I seriously got interested in making art when I was at Sarah Lawrence College. At Sarah Lawrence, I studied for 2 years with a Japanese woodblock printer named Ansei Uchima, and I made very graphic, mainly black and white woodblock printing, and that were figurative, kind of abstracted in its compositions. From that first experience in printmaking, I learned about using the tools for cutting different kinds of shapes and compositions. From the very beginning of working in printmaking, I was particularly interested in color and forms. I had a strong interest in using the human form because it was, to me, the most expressive of the range of emotions and states of mind that represented human life in all its possibilities. I had a psychiatrist who I was seeing regularly, and he was the one that suggested that instead of working mainly in academic subjects such as philosophy, intellectual history, and psychology, that I go and start doing some artwork. I left New York to move to Paris, and when I was in Paris, I met a French man who became my husband. I lived in Paris from 1960 to 1960. I'm not sure if it was 1964 or 1967. So I met my husband in Paris, and we lived in a building that was a building intentioned only for artists, and we stayed in Paris for 6 years. There was a program that was a 5-day program of working in the studio on independent projects, and that was full of themes that were kind of improvisations of my impressions of forms and expressions. No, I worked in a studio that had about 10 people working there in the same environment, and everybody's work was very individual and had a wide range of themes and images. In the 1960s, I met an Indian saint in Paris who I began studying with, and his presence in my life had a tremendous impact on me. His influence was able to make me very in contact with my creativity and with my sense of well-being as well. My sculptures were definitely influenced very largely by the images that were evoked by the meditation that I made under the influence of Muktananda. The paintings that were under the influence of abstraction and a sense of composition, design, and color, which were of a different quality, were influenced by the sense of joy that I had been developing after my initiation with Swami Muktananda. The sense of color emerged and became very, very dominant and very important in the expression of my artwork. We came back to New York, and moved on the corner of Spring and Mercer Street that had continuous traffic from morning to night of all the artists out and about trying to make their way up the popular ladder and get attention and fame and when I'm making sculptures, I just start working very freely with the clay, and forms start to assemble themselves, and they have a certain autonomy in the life that is created. Images start to form into articulation and have a certain surprise element to turning into an expressive figure. I approach my sculpture by free exploration of an undefined unit of clay which undergoes transformation of shape. Assemblage is a French word which means to assemble. A piece of work that is basically a three-dimensional work on a flat surface. There are only a few numbers of assemblage in my collection of work, and they are the pieces that are assembled pieces of separate three-dimensional units which have a three-dimensionality in relation to the wall. I approach my assemblage by constructing smaller pieces of three-dimensional units that are assembled, glued together, or attached together, and then painted so they have a three-dimensional quality. My paintings are merged from a freely exploratory juxtaposition of shapes using a variety of colors. When do I like to work? Good question. I don't know when I like to work. I like to work when I get to work. That's when I like to work. Westbeth, and we wound up living in Westbeth, which is an artist's building, which is for artists. We're working artists. I was very influenced by the images that were figurative in nature